everyone, this is Shelly from Koala Knits and Knacks, and I'm going to show you how to make a baby scratch mitt. In this tutorial you'll need 4-weight yarn. However, you probably could use finer yarn, baby yarn. I'm sure it would work as well too. You might have to add some rows because it's not going to make it quite as long. But I'm going to make it in the 4-weight yarn that I have, and I'm going to make it in the Craft Smart variegated. It's a bluish color. I lost the sleeve for it, so I don't really know what color it is, but it's a blue variegated. You can use whatever color you want. So let's get started. You're going to grab your working yarn. You're going to bring your last white needle and your first black needle in line with your yarn guide here. And if you've seen as it came around, I do take a permanent black marker and mark that red divider that's between the two. I mention that in all my videos, just in case there's some new subscribers who haven't seen that before. It's really a time saver, and I just love it because I can see when my row is coming around. Oops, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do a long tail cast on. So you're going to put a little bit into the middle because you're gonna use it for sewing later as well. You're gonna go behind your first black needle, front of your next, behind and in front, all the way around. And when you get halfway around, stop and set your yarn guide or your row counter to 0. I don't want to forget that because I always want to make sure that I know what row I'm actually working on, not what row I'm finished. So now that it's at 0, when I start, it'll count the row that I'm on. So it's behind my last white needle. I'm going to insert it in the yarn guide. And I did about a 10-minute search on Google. And it told me that from a 0 to 3-month-old baby, you need a 4-inch scratch mitt. For 3 to 6 months, you need a 5-inch scratch mitt. So we're going to do the 0 to 3 months, and we're going to, and I know that on my machine, it averages 5 rows is 1 inch. So if I need 4 inches, I need 20 rows. So I'm going to do 12 rows of my mitt color, which is what of the hand part of the color. And we're going to start with that. So go ahead and crank out 12 rows. I can probably just stay with you here. I'm choosing to do 2 different colors, but you can just do the whole thing in one color if you want. We're going to crochet a little drawstring to separate the cuff from the hand. That's 10, 11, and I'm going to show you how to do that too for those of you who don't know how to crochet. So we've got our 12 rows. We're going to go ahead and find our scissors. There they are. Cut that working yarn. Open your yarn feeder. Put it between the last white and the first black needle. Then you're going to grab whatever color you chose for your cuff. I'm going to just choose a solid color baby blue here. And I'm going to insert the end into my yarn guide between the last white, the first black needle. I'm going to leave my counter on 12 there. You can reset it if you want to count your 8 rows, but I'm just going to keep going till I get to the 20th row because I know that's how many I need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank 3 or 4 needles. Take a look at this one here. I always take the ends of my working yarn, both ends, and I pull it until that sneaks underneath there. And then I know it's nice and snug. Again, something I mention in all my videos, that's when you take your project off your machine, then your stitches aren't looser at the beginning of every row. Okay, so then I'm going to crank till I get to row 20, but after row 2 or 3 rows of this new color, I stop and I give this a tie. You want to put it in a knot because this is not waste yarn. This is going to stay in your project, so you want to hold those 2 together. So I give it a good firm knot, then I just snip it, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to continue on till I get to row 20. I'm on 17, 18, 19, and 20. How fast was that? Like really? So then you're going to cut off an end on that as well. You don't need quite as long as of an end because you're going to use the end from your gathered side to sew up the side of your mitt. Okay, and you're going to open your yarn feeder, put that end in between the last white and the first black. Then you're going to grab yourself some waste yarn. This is the top of our cuff and we want a straight edge. So we're going to go ahead and put waste yarn on that project, on the end of this project. Okay, there we go. I had to pause my video for a minute because my waste yarn had a big knot in it. So I got that worked out. I'm going to put the end of my waste yarn in my yarn feeder there. close the latch, and I'm going to hold both of those again, and I'm going to, I don't need to pull that tight because it's not going to stay in. It's the waste yarn. And I'm going to go around 7 or 8 times. But after the 3rd time or so, I'm going to just put one little slip knot in here, because sometimes when you are doing a project and maybe you've got 2 or 3 projects on the go and you're going to get your waste yarn done, get your project off your machine and throw it in a bag. You don't want to have this waste yarn rows too few, because then if it starts to unravel, and that's why you tie this too, if it starts to unravel, then once it gets to the end of your waste yarn, it's going to unravel your project. So I always make sure that I have a good amount of waste yarn, no less than 7 or 8 rows. Okay. I think that's good, and I'm going to snip that off. Open my yarn guide, again, put that in the middle, close that. If you don't close that, your needle hits the end of it and you don't want anything to break. So make sure you shut that before you take off your waste yarn. And you give it 2 rounds. The 2nd round, it begins to come off, and I always just help it off, just like that. And always, more often than not, it gets stuck on these last 2, but you just help it off, okay? So when you get your project off, you're going to stretch it out just like you would any other little project that you do, because what that does is it softens it up and it lines up all the stitches so that they look more even and uniform. And from there, we're going to just pull this a little bit, this end just a little bit, so that so it doesn't unravel or we lose any of that. And we're going to go back into this other side, which is the side where we're going to sew shut. I'm going to pull out all those yarn ends, and then we're going to sew it closed. Closing an end with a straight seam is not hard. Don't be intimidated by it if you've never done it. It's quite simple to do. But if you ever need to refer back to a video, and rather than watching this one and continuing to fast forward through it to get to this part, I do have a video specifically on how to make a straight seam at the edge of your project, so you can look that up, okay? And I explain well, I'll just explain it here too, okay? Since we're doing this, just in case you're new to the channel, okay? So we're going to close this one end, our cuff end, with a straight seam. So in order to do that, you want to make sure that these two ends are outside of your project. Otherwise, you sew them to the inside and then you have to dig for them. That's no fun. So take your working project yarn, the end, and when you pull on it, it pulls on this loop here. So you know this is your last stitch, okay? So put your yarn, your stitch marker there. Now when you take your other one, your waste yarn, whatever stitch that's coming out of, there you go, that's your last stitch. Or in this case, I count it as my first because I'm gonna count around from that side. I know that there's 22 stitches or needles on my machine, and so I need to find the dead center here to line my edges up. So I'm gonna count around to, if there's 22 stitches, number 11 and 12 are my middle ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm gonna stick my hook under 12. This is a 4.5 millimeter hook. Then I'm gonna go up to what I would call 11, put it on my hook and put it through the loop that's on my hook. Go down, pick up that next one, put it through the loop that's on your hook. Then go up to the next one, put it through the loop that's on your hook. And if you happen to grab a snag of waste yarn with it, you want to just take it off and do it again, okay? And so then I'm going to go down, grab that stitch, put it through the loop on my hook, go to the top, do the same thing, bottom, same thing, all the way across. And when I'm not talking on the camera, like I always say, I count my stitches. I want to make sure that I don't forget one, because if one is tight in there and you don't see it and you move over to this one, when you take your waste yarn off and you think your project is all seamed, this row that this stitch is attached to will drop all the row, and you'll have to go and fix that. So you want to make sure that you're counting all your stitches, and that you start with counting the one that was on your hook to begin with, and you make sure that you've done 22 stitches. Okay, almost at the end. Gets a little tighter when you get to the end, so that's why these bobby pins are so valuable to me. I just pull it up, put my stitch on my hook, take out my stitch marker, do the same there. Then this last one is often hard to find too. do the same thing, pull it up, take it out. Then with that yarn end, I'm going to yarn over my hook, pull it through that loop, tighten it, and you've got it secured, all done. So now you're going to just unravel this and pull it off. And because it's at the end of your project, it just pulls off like that. If it's at the beginning of the project, there's a way to take that end off. It's a little bit harder than this end, and there is a technique to it, and you can look for that on my channel, and I'll show you how to do that. No problem. Okay, so you've got your end on that done. Now you're gonna go to your other end, and you're just gonna pull this ever so slightly. Now little infants are not hard on their mitts, so you don't have to go crazy with circling that 3 times like I do on my beanies. And we're going to just secure this. Let me just grab my needle. Okay, I've got my needle threaded, and I've pulled that tight like that. And generally for my beanie, I go around and secure it several times, but you don't have to do that for an infant mitt. They're not going to pull on it. It's not going to get, it's not going to break that binding is not going to break, so it won't come apart. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold it in half. Like that, and then I just grab the top stitch there and the one on this side and pull it tight, just like that. Okay, now you can tie a little knot in there. Oops, sorry, I went off camera. And we got our little knot there, and now what I want you to do is go ahead and make 3 more of these. You have to have 4 exactly like this. Now, I'm gonna leave this like this because I'm going to sew 2 of them together, and we're gonna make one cute little mitt with 2 pieces like this. So you need 4 exactly like this in order to make a pair of mitts. So go ahead and do that, and when you get all 4 done, meet me back here and we'll assemble. It's time to assemble these 2 little cuties, and we're going to take them just like that and put them together. Just one over top of the other, okay? You're gonna thread your one yarn end onto your needle, and just leave the other one just hanging out of the way there, okay? And what you're gonna do is you're going to go around the 1/2, sorry, you're gonna go around the 1/2 of this one. I got a funny knot there because I recorded this and I put it all together, like what I'm gonna do now and down one side. I put it all together and realized I wasn't videoing, so I had to take it apart. And in doing so, I broke my yarn and I had to tie a knot there. So yours won't look like that. Yours will look more like, I should have used the other side just so you can see. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna flip this and I'm gonna thread my other needle. And you're going to put your sides together like that. And then you see how the center of your top of your mitt is right there. You're going to go around those stitches, just around the one on the, just half of it, okay? Just around the stitches like that. Then you're gonna turn it over and you're gonna go to the next side, to the other mitt. And you're going to do the same thing. You're gonna grab those stitches in that first row and you're going to go around. Just like you're securing, when you make a beanie, just like when you're securing the top part, going around and around the circle, that's what you're doing here, okay? So you're gonna just go around and pull, keeping that other yarn end out of your way. You're gonna need that because one of these yarn ends is gonna sew down one side and the other yarn end is gonna sew down the other side. So I'm gonna keep bringing this one around just till I get to the side. And once I'm at the side, oops, we're going to do an invisible seam, okay? So you're gonna line these up, and just like when you're putting 2 panels together on a blanket, that's how we're gonna do it here. You're gonna find your side stitches. You're gonna make sure on both halves that the wide part of your stitch is near the bottom and the point is at the top, so it's facing down. It's not like this, where the wide end is down on one side and narrow on the other side. You want them to both be the wide ends. It's easier to pick up the stitches, and when you have them both the same, after you've joined it together, it takes 2 rows and makes it 1 row, and it looks completely uniform, and that's why you can't see that it's an invisible stitch. You can't see it. You won't be able to find where the row was when you're doing a blanket panel, and it'll look the same here. It'll look like just like it's just the 2 rows made into 1. But before you do that, you're going to just take your needle and you're going to, I just sew the first stitch here. Take those 2 loops and sew it together like that. And then you can begin your work down, making sure that you do not turn this. It's a little finicky because it's such a small wee little thing. But you're going to go ahead and pick up the stitch, go through there, pick up 2 bars, just like you do in the mattress stitch. So pick up 2 bars, or on your, when you're sewing together a blanket. You're gonna go there, then you're gonna come across and you're gonna pick up 2 stitches, 2 bars on this side, so going through 2 stitches and picking up the 2 bars, okay? Making sure that you don't tangle this one into the middle there. So where this end came out, you're gonna go in, you're gonna pick up 2 bars. So that's 1, that's 2. And you're gonna do that all the way down, making sure you do not twist your row. Okay, just keep going just like this, okay? And go across to the other side where it came out, pick up those 2 bars and go across. Once you get 5 or 6 stitches done, you can pinch the end here and pull. And it brings it all together beautifully, okay? Then you continue on down your project. On down the mitt. So here we go, pick up 2. I lost my yarn end out of my needle. Boy, we're having some difficult times here. So anyways, you're going to do that all the way down to the end, and when you get to the end, meet me and we'll knot it off. Okay, we're coming near the end. I've got about 5 or 6 more stitches done there, so I'm going to pinch up at the top and pull. It's a satisfying feeling when you see those 2 rows coming together. I just love it. It's great. I love doing this invisible stitch. Even on blankets, I just find it just such a nice way to close things. But also, you know, most of my blankets that you've seen on my channel, I've only got a couple on there so far, more to come. But I also like the braided stitch. But for this, we need the invisible stitch. So let's keep going. Okay, I'm gonna pinch and pull, get that all sealed up. Then with my end there, I don't want this to be jagged and off-centered, so I'm going to pick up that stitch, come around, and tie it off. Okay, so that's one side done. Looks great. Now we're gonna go around to the other side. You're gonna take your yarn out of your needle, you're gonna pick up the other yarn end, and you're gonna do the exact same thing all the way down till this end. And when you're done that, on this mitt, go ahead and do it on your other mitt, and then meet me back and we will finish off. Now we are going to go ahead and crochet our little drawstring to go in our mitt. And if you already know how to crochet, then you go ahead and grab your coffee, make yourself a cup of coffee, or get yourself something to drink and relax for the next couple of minutes, or fast forward to the next part. I will tell you, for those of you who know how to do this, we're going to single crochet a chain of 60. And then we will add it to our mitt. So a chain of 60, and I'm using a 5.5 millimeter hook. All right. Now, for those of you who don't know how to crochet, we're gonna have a little lesson. Now, you might want to go on YouTube and find someone else who can teach this a little bit better than me. But anyways, I'm an advanced crocheter too, so I should do all right. But you're going to put your yarn end, you've got a little bit of a tail there, put your yarn end, wrap it around your finger, then insert your hook under that first loop and grab that tail and pull it through on your hook and pull. You've got a knot, okay? There's your first loop on your hook. So I just wrap my yarn around my fingers. You can figure out what works best for you. Then you're going to pinch the knot that's on the bottom of your loop that's on the hook there. Then you're gonna put your hook underneath that yarn, twist it to pull through that loop. That's one single crochet. See, pretty easy. Move your finger up, hold that one chain, put it around, wrap, and go through. That's 2. Move your thumb up so you can keep your tension, and you keep going just like that. 4, 5, and you're going to around and through the loop, around and through the loop, around and through the loop. And we're going to make a chain of 60. So you keep going till you get to your 60th stitch, and then I'll show you how I finish it. Okay, we've got 60 stitches on our hook. It should look like that, going all the way down. Now, when you started, you probably I told you to hold each stitch and move up, and that's till you get the hang of it. But once you get the hang of it, then you can knit 3 or 4 stitches and then move your thumb up and then knit 3 or 4 and hold your thumb up. And I thought it wasn't fair that I didn't show you how I hold my yarn. So I take my little finger and I put it underneath my little finger, between those 2 fingers. Then I come around. Let me try that again. Through, and then I come around like that. So through those 2 fingers, I don't know if you can see this, through those 2 fingers, then around that finger, and I hold, that's how I hang on to my yarn end, okay? And so then I've got my 60 done. I'm going to do as though I'm doing 61 again. I'm gonna pull that up. I'm gonna cut off my yarn. You don't need a very long end, a couple inches. Pull it through and tighten it, okay? And so now you've got your wonderful little drawstring that we're going to use to put around our mitt, okay? Good job. I've tightened those ends on each end of my little drawstring, and then I snipped it off quite close to the end. Just like that, okay? Once I pulled it really, really tight. I keep wanting to go over to the right. I don't know what the problem is, but sorry when I do that if I go off camera. Okay, so I'm going to thread my needle. Now, I'm going to make mention of these needles. I have done it before, but not in a while on my videos. They are metal needles with a little plastic end. They come in a package of 3, and they're 3 different sizes. And these little needles are just like the best thing since sliced bread. Like seriously, they're so good to work with. I use the bigger one to take my stitches off my machines when I cast off, but you can get them in Walmart and get them in Amazon. You probably can get them in Joann's or Michael's, or I haven't seen them in Michael's, but I got mine in Walmart, and I think they were like $4 a pack. So you're going to thread a little end on there, and then I'm going to count down 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to go underneath those 2, then go across, miss a row, go across, miss a row, go across, trying to stay on 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you go on 4 on the 4th row at some point, don't worry about it. It's not really that major of a deal, but try to stay on 5. Okay, so I'm going to miss that row. I'm going to go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all the way around. So go all the way around, and I'll meet you when we're finished. Okay, I've got it through, and I think I didn't make mention of it, but I'm sure that you would have automatically done it. But you start in the middle, close to the middle of the front of your mitt, and then I'm going to just pull that so that I have my working ends about the same length. Then you give it a little tie with a little bow. Oh, it's just the cutest little thing. Oh, I just love these. And tie a bow. Shout out to Allison Gomez. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your last name right, but she gave me the idea. She put a comment underneath the video that I did on the adult mitts and asked if I could make a baby mitt. And I actually thought that was such a great idea and went to town to do it right away, actually. Thought I would just start on it today because I had the time. So thank you for the idea. I really appreciate that, and I hope that you like the creation that I've come up with. Happy knitting, my friends, and take care. We'll see you on the next video.